Okay, this is going to be my third video. It's actually going to probably be like my seventh video, but enough of that. I've had a few hiccups in this whole process. I'm going to try and speed this along as quickly and efficiently as possible. Okay, so in the first video I introduced imaginary numbers. In the second video I did some math. First I did some addition, then I did some I didn't even do subtraction. I just said basically subtraction and addition, you do the same thing with complex numbers. And then I did some multiplication of some complex numbers. And again, just real quickly, a complex number is just like a real number, so 2 plus an imaginary number, 2i. And you're basically a complex number, you just think of it as one whole thing. Alright, so now let's go ahead and do some division with some complex numbers. And I'm going to go ahead and write the definition of a imaginary number, or the imaginary unit, on the side. So I is equal to the square root of 1, or you can think of it alternatively, it's just the same. I is equal to the square root of -1. Sorry about that. I squared is equal to -1. I don't know if I just said that incorrectly. I is equal to the square root of -1. I squared is equal to this to -1, just -1. Sorry, I'm a bit tired. Killing time doing this. Okay, so anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and just jump right to it. You heard the story at the end of last video, how I had this My Math Lab, and it gave me a question in which I actually I gave the correct answer. It's just that I didn't give it in the form that it wanted. And I'm going to go ahead and just perform this question right here. 7 plus I over 7 minus I. Alright, so simple algebra stuff. I mean, none of this stuff is really deep. 7 plus I over 7 minus I. Okay. So, I didn't really go into this too much in the last video, but dividing by complex numbers is a little bit more tricky than multiplying just by complex numbers. So, in order to divide 7 plus I by 7 minus I, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to multiply this whole thing by 1. But it's going to be a special kind of 1. It's not going to be your typical one. I guess you could say it's a fancy one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply by 7 plus I over 7 plus I. Oops. Try to make it look pretty. Okay, so what I'm basically doing is look at the denominator, that's the one at the bottom over here, and look at the sign specifically, 7 minus I. Well, I'm just going to multiply by 7 plus I. And backing up a few steps, I said I was multiplying this whole thing by a fancy 1. Well, 7 plus I over 7 plus I is 1. Let's say I defined, I don't know, let's say A was equal to 7 plus I. I just said A is equal to 7 plus I. Well, that means A, and remember, just wherever I write A, imagine the 7 plus I. A over A, or 7 plus I over 7 plus I, is equal to 1. Any number over itself, or anything over itself, is just going to equal 1. Alright? So I am really multiplying by a fancy 1 when I do this. Or an elaborate 1, if that word actually better fits the scenario. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do this. Well, I'll have enough space. 7 plus I times 7 plus I. So I'm going to write 7 plus I, 7 plus I, and then I'm going to do 7 minus I times 7 minus I, plus I, and it's a little bit small. I hope you can read it. I'm going to write it bigger under here. Excuse me. Alright, so let's just go ahead and do that same old business that we did last time. FOIL, first, outer, inner, last. 7 times 7, that's just going to be 49. 7 times I, that's just going to be 7I. I times 7, that's going to be I7 or 7I. And then I times I, well that's I squared, and that's just going to be minus 1, or negative 1. Alright, so let's do the denominator, the bottom. Denominator is a fancy word for the bottom, I guess, or the technical word, whatever. So let's go ahead and do the FOIL again. 7 times 7, that's just going to equal 49. 7 times I, that's going to equal 7i. Negative I times 7, that's going to equal negative 7i. And negative I times I, well, let's go ahead and think this one through a bit. Negative I times I. Well, I'm going to go ahead and expand this. Negative I, I'm just going to think of as negative 1 times I. And then, oh, goddamn you bug. Goddamn you bug. Ooh. No. Cool. Gotcha. Ooh. Whatever. Alright, so, wow, big distraction. We're on this part right here. So, alright, so negative 1 times I times I. Well, I times I is just I squared. I squared is just negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 1 is just 1. So this whole business down here just turns into a 1. Okay, let's think this through a little bit. We got a real number right here, this 49, and we got a real number right here, this negative 1. And we have a real number, an imaginary number right here, this 7i, and another 7i, which is another imaginary number. And we got this real number over here, this one over here, and this imaginary one over here, and that one over there. And what we're just going to do is we're going to collect and add like terms, and I'm not going to even collect them, which is really just, I do 49 minus 1 plus 7i plus 7i. No, I'm just going to go ahead and do it all right here. 49 minus 1, that's just going to equal 48. 7i plus 7i is just going to equal 14i. Alright? 49 plus 1 is just going to equal 50, and 7i minus 7i, well that's going to equal 0, so I'm going to move this just 50 a little bit more to the center to make it look pretty. Alright, so what else can we do? Well, what we can do is we can factor some stuff out. I'm going to go ahead and just do this a little bit like the long way. Okay, so this 48 over here we can think of as 2 times 24. And this 14i we can think of as 2 times 7i. This 50 in the bottom, downstairs, or in the denominator, this denominator right here, we can think of as 2 times 25. Alright, let's go ahead and move this over here. I'll just copy it down real quick. 2 times 24 plus 2 times 7i over 2 times 25. Okay, well what we can do then is factor out the 2. So in the numerator, or upstairs, how we can think of this whole thing is with 2 times 24 plus 7i. And downstairs we can think of this as 2 times 25. Well, this just turns into, really, it just turns into 2 over 2 times 24 plus 7i over 25. And that's pretty much, this 2 times 2, this is, this 2 over 2 is just 1, and 1 times anything is just the anything, so there's my answer right here, and that's how I wrote it on the website. But the website, for some reason, and it's equivalent, it's not that the website's wrong or I'm wrong, it's just that it wanted me to write it some other way. The website wanted me to write it like this: 24 over 25 plus 7i over 25. And pretty much that's I think you even put the I out here, didn't even keep it in the numerator. But anyways, it's all the same. Yeah, so the website just basically did that, and I inputted the answer 3 times, and it just said I was wrong each time. And I looked through this, I looked through all my work. I did basically the same thing except in a notebook. And I look through my work and I'm like, where am I wrong? I input the answer, it says I'm wrong. Do it again.